Good evening. I come from such an inspiring talk, right? And you heard about education, and I'm coming here today to talk to you about an education, but in another way. I'm here to talk to you about some misconceptions we have towards education, but also about creativity. Let's see if this is working. No. There you go. So I'm here as a student and as a teacher. But first, before I start talking, I'd like to start with a quick exercise. I'm going to show you a small text, and I'd like you all to read it at your own pace. And raise your hand once you're done with it, okay? Very fast, just show I'm done. Okay, ready? Okay, by now most of you have read the text. So for the second part of this exercise, I think it's kind of predictable. I'm going to show you a small video clip. No.
A bola para Carlos Martins, aproxima-se da grande área Martins para Ronaldo. Ronaldo vai até a linha final, o passe é muito longo. Ainda Ronaldo, também na frente de Sérgio Ramos. Faz o dribbling, puxa a bola, tirou Casillas. A bola vem ainda para o golo. O tiro já está! Já está! É nosso!
Okay, so thoughts. Now I start talking. What do you think? Do you think that this description put you at the same level of engagement and excitement as the video did? Do you think you were as involved with the game as you were when you read and when you saw it? But both the text and the video have the same information, right? So why one of them seemed more exciting and engaging than the other? And above all, why is the less engaging method of putting away information the one used in schools? This is what's happening in nearly every school these days. Your students, you recognize this, right? And this is what's happening in nearly every school in Portugal these days. And they call this use of technology. But is it? When I was an elementary school student, my teacher used to say in every parents' meeting, actually every teacher I had, that I was very smart, but I was always on the moon. I spent my classes with my hand on my chin, doodling, and well, in fact, on the moon. Mainly because the teacher would always be talking and talking or writing on the board. And what's the difference between talking and writing on a board and talking while passing slides full of words that we will not read? The board has changed, but the method hasn't. And they call it use of technology. What happens is, people usually think that technology is about a tool. It's about this board, it's about a computer, it's about the tablet. But I'm here to tell you today that it's not about a tool. It's not about the tool itself. The engaging environment, the creativity that teachers look for in the classroom doesn't come from the tool itself, but from the way we use it. We can either use a smart board, a pencil, a computer, and still be as engaging as we were talking. And these days, although all this technology, children still spend their classes with their hand on the chin, being very smart, but still keeping their mind on the moon instead of that boring classroom. So, from my experience in Europe, Portugal isn't behind on the access to technology, educational tools, but we are far behind on the creative smart, and effective use of it. And here's where the misconception starts. It is not about the tool. That was my first point. A few things we have wrong about creativity. First, it's not about the tool. It's how we use them. By misusing technology in classrooms, like spending 90 minutes projecting written slides like the one I showed you, we lose all the benefits that come with it, and it becomes completely counterproducing, because no student will read what's on those PowerPoints. No, they will spend all those 90 minutes of classes writing on their notebooks frenetically, all that they can take off those slides so they can study at home. And don't listen to you. Don't listen to the teacher. And we go back to hands on chins. But I am a big supporter of good use of technology in education. It is the fairest way of teaching, actually. What do I mean by fairest? How many of you, please raise your hand, listen to music while you are studying? How many of you cannot stand music while you are studying? Okay. How many of you have to write while you are studying? How many of you rather listen to a classmate talking about the subject? All those little things make your learning style. Now look at each other. Look at your friend, look at your classmate. Did you choose the same thing? Those little characteristics are called learning styles. Some people need absolute silence. Some people need to eat while they're studying. It's true. I mean, I think some classes would be great if we could have some Skittles on our hands. Just that. The fact is, if you enter in a classroom, a regular classroom these days, you will realize that only 1 or 2 learning styles actually benefit from the classic teaching method. And the rest of the students will spend their school years struggling with an environment that isn't natural to them, learning in a way that isn't effective to them. And that, of course, raises the motivation towards schools, but we know this. This is not new. We know this for decades, actually. So what is new? This is new. On a classroom where technology is used properly, more students are engaged with the subject, whether visually, tactile, through audio. And if they are engaged with the subject, they understand better. If they understand better, they like what they are learning. And if they like their learning, they like school, right? You chose the school you are studying, you probably like your subject more than you liked high school. Makes perfect sense. So let me tell you a story. Last year, seems like you hear me better if you talk like that. Last year, I had the opportunity to teach in the Netherlands on a Dalton school. Dalton School is a school where kids have the freedom to choose the subject they wanted to work at, choose the way they want to study. It's basically an active child-centered pedagogy. And at first I was completely surprised by it, so how independent and responsible the kids were. But at the same time, I was a little away from my comfort zone, missing the interaction. So on my first lecture, I did what I was familiar with. I talked. I talked about Portugal, I showed images, and I talked. And I even signed up homework. On the next class, however, I found out that none of the kids had done the homework. None. On a 26 kids classroom, none of them had done the homework. So I asked my tutor, what's wrong? Wasn't I clear enough? And he said, Karen, there is no such thing as homework. What do you mean there's no homework? And he said, well, basically here, the kids had the freedom to work at their own pace. So I took a deeper look at the classroom, and I realized there are no hands-on chins here. They spend their work day, their school day, working. And they can choose the way they want to work. And that was the first time I saw learning styles being respected inside of a classroom. And I wondered, why don't I see that happening in Portugal? Why are we so obsessed in having everybody looking at the same place, doing the same thing at the same time, if we do have the tools to make the teaching process much more individualized? And the schools that do so are called alternative schools. But if the alternative is so much more interesting, so much more engaging, and so much more effective, why shouldn't it be the norm? I mean, it makes sense to me. So here I was. Whoa. So here I was in a class of 6th graders in the Netherlands, used to work on their own. And I was struggling to find a way to challenge them. I mean, they were the challenge to me. So in one of my lectures, I decided to put them working in groups. It seemed simple, but it wasn't. It was very challenging. So I gave them 45 minutes. I told them, you have to get its slogan, logo, make a commercial, and find some good arguments to sell me a bunch of useless stuff. You know this exercise? Like, sell me a pen without ink, or a car without wheels, you name it. And by the way, kids are way better at this exercise than any adult I've done it with. I gave them pen, paper, and I told them, you can do whatever you want, but there will be a winner in the end. And I was so surprised with the outcome. It's like, it's magic. You can tell a kid you can do whatever you want, but there will be a winner, and magic happens. Really. But I was mostly surprised with the fact that every single group turned to technology. One of them projected the back screen of the national news and filmed an interview. The other used an image software to make the logo. You have pen and paper in front of you and you use this image software to make a logo in 45 minutes. Another made pictures with different uses you could give to a ball without air and made a presentation with it. But they also made a play and a little song. And that's when I realized technology is natural to them. Kind of like a first language. They're digital natives. Technology is naturally included on their creative process, pretty much like playing. And there I go. I'm back. Pretty much like playing. And this changes everything, right?
T.
2 years and a half is the little girl.
Very nice.
This is how technology makes the teaching process more human. The model, where there was a lecture, a homework, a lecture, a homework, a lecture, a homework, and a test, from whether you scored 50% or 100%, it didn't matter because the whole class was moving on to the next subject, is replaced by technology-based and self-paced classes like Khan Academy that bring back to the teacher the opportunity and the freedom and the time to work closely with the kids. And there you go. Interested students on a classroom adapt to their natural learning styles and no hands on teens. This takes us back to our first exercise. Then now you are wondering, why did we do it? So I did this exercise with different students and children and teenagers I've worked with, and it actually takes about 2 to 3 times longer to process information as you're just reading or as you're just listening than as you are visualizing and listening. This spares already a lot of time in classes. And whether it's through a video, a PowerPoint, a Prezi, a mind map, a game, education to be motivating and engaging to students again, it has to touch their creativity, their curiosity, and still make sense to what's familiar to them. And as educators, we have to admit, technology is the spoken language. I mean, how couldn't it be? In the last 20 years, more advances and more significant advances were made in the last 200. I didn't have a computer when I was 10, and I have a tablet now. It's as simple as that. My sisters didn't have a computer till I didn't have one when I was 10, and they had when they were 5. The access is more and more. And on the school that I'm working now, every single kid at my classroom has a tablet at home. And I'm working on a public school. So they have it, it's familiar to them. And that's usually the guideline for education. But another guideline, and that's what I'm here to talk about mainly, is creativity. Creativity should actually be the baseline for education. More than the tools themselves, creativity. Because if you think about it, creativity is the baseline for social changing, evolution, entrepreneurship. Creativity isn't just about arts and abstract thinking. It's also what makes one a good problem solver, a person that sees in failure the opportunity to learn. And that's, in the end, what we want from our children. Another example of a good use of technology in my practice in the Netherlands was an e-twinning project. Basically, my students had some problems making an estimative of quantity by looking to an amount of objects. Like I look through this bottle of waters, and I can guess how many bottles of waters are there. Pretty simple math. So what we did is we created a game with cards and gummy bears, and we shared it with the Czech school through this platform. And what happened is it became an exchange of methods and techniques to make the game better. And as they were so involved on this exchange of methods and techniques and this amazing exchange with countries, they were also learning. And this is another amazing thing about technology. It allows great effectiveness side by side with a wider sharing experience and a creative work from both the teacher and the student. And here's the biggest misconception. This one. Creativity is much more than arts. Creativity is in the base of every profession, is in the base of the evolution by itself. So, sorry. What we are doing now in schools is running a business that isn't even good for itself. Neither the knowledge is fully acquired, neither the model prepared the children for the expectations we have of the future. A technologically evolved future to ways that we cannot even imagine. A future that seems far for us, but will eventually be their reality. With a combination of good use of technology and actual real work between teachers and students, I think this scenario can be turned around easily. I believe that, and this kind of sounds cheesy, but it's true, I believe that the work of the teacher is to bring back that spark of curiosity to the children. The knowledge comes from curiosity. You are, in whatever course you're taking now, you choose to take it out of a little spark of curiosity. A little something that made you feel like you would like that job, even if it's money in the end. I'm curious about how it's to live rich. So I think we should make them curious, let them free, reach out and connect. And so I propose, let's take this generation of digital natives. Let's use their curiosity, their interest, their creativity, and make them the brilliant minds of tomorrow, using these amazing tools that we have in front of us, but using them well. Either using them well or don't use them at all. In the last 20 to 25 years, the classroom has been changing tremendously, but we haven't. The tools are there. Now we have to join together the knowledge that we've acquired for so many decades about the way we learn and be creative on the way we teach. Today, I'm talking to you, most, I believe, future engineers, right? Some from universities of communication and technology, and I'm telling you, let's work together. Seems silly, but let's work together. Because if our goal is towards a better and evolved future, we should look at the ones that will have an actual role on that future, our children. So engineers and teachers together, I think we really could make it happen. We could make it happen today. We could make that change happen in Portugal. Thank you.